All right, guys. So, welcome to our second episode for the podcast Community Chat. We have a very special guest and a very close friend of mine. We have Monika Santucci.
Yay. Hi, guys.
So, I just kind of wanted to start off and just tell me what's going on with you, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I just put out this EP. It's called the Aton EP, 6 records. It's a lot of like melodic dubstep mixed with D&B, pop meets EDM. And I've just been so excited to have it out.
We were very lucky to go ahead and do the viewing for, your Tony P. And shout out to If Found for IT support and Radiance for helping us out that day.
We needed that. He came in clutch.
Yeah.
That was such a fun night. That was such an amazing night. That was like
great.
the best.
It was great because it was like everybody that we knew was kind of like together, and like it was my first time over at your place, and I mean, Monika, that is such a lovely place.
You're so sweet. No, that's honestly like my favorite part about being in the EDM community is just the people. Like I've been so fortunate to meet some of my favorite people just by working in music, and it's just such a blessing. So yeah, that was one of those nights where I feel like it came all to fruition. Everybody was together, and it was just like all my favorite people in at my place, which is, I know it's kind of far away, so it was awesome.
No, it was really great because it was like one of the few times that I've ever been to your place. Every single time I've been to your place, it's like an upgrade, an upgrade, an upgrade. And I'm like, that's my girl.
That's how you got to do it. You slowly upgrade in life.
Yeah,
hopefully,
exactly.
hopefully.
Yeah, and it was really, I mean, it was really cool because it's like, we got there and we were like all hang out, and then you invited us to this like super awesome like movie theater, and when I got in there I was like, oh damn, like it's like that.
No, that was the coolest thing ever, to be able to screen the music video in advance before it came out. Like I got to see all my best friends' reactions to like to the music video, just the funny parts, the exciting parts. Like it was really cool to see everybody laugh. We cried. It was amazing.
I cried.
That was the best.
All right, so we're gonna go ahead and start off with just like the most generic, basic questions because I'm pretty sure, like, I want people to make sure that they know who Monika Santucci is. So for this one, it's how did you first get into DJing and what inspired you to start?
Yeah, I mean, it was over 10 years ago now. I really, music's always been a huge part of my life. I was playing in and out of bands growing up. I was in orchestras, jazz bands, you name it. So it was not a difficult transition to make, when I was getting really into dance music. So I was working on an album at the time, and I was working with a producer that was like really more dance focused. And so that kind of opened my eyes to it a little bit. And I was working in film at the time. And I worked on well, actually, I turned down a movie. It was the first movie I turned down as in post-production was this movie called Spring Breakers. And luckily I got invited to like one of the pre-screenings. Because when I worked with this editor and with this post-production group, we would always do these pre-screenings in Hollywood, and like kind of before the movie came out. And this one, it was like scored or music supervised by Skrillex.
Oh, wow.
And it was really cool because it was just like 4 of us in this movie theater. Like I had no idea what to expect. I just got invited. I was like, okay, I'll just show up and support this movie that I didn't work on. And it was me, Harmony Korine, Skrillex, and Ellie Goulding, and the editor.
Are you kidding me? That's amazing.
And it was just us in a little movie theater. I was so ignorant at the time that I hadn't even heard of his music yet. I had heard of his name. He had just sweeped the Grammys like recently. So It was just like I was late to the game. But I heard his music in the movie, and I was like blown away, just like 99% of us in EDM.
Yeah.
But I was blown away by the sound design, and came home. Like I just was immediately like, I need to work on this album, but with a whole new perspective. And it got me into using, drum machines. I got into using Machine. I got into Ableton, and producing a lot more. And then, yeah, that EP it became like more of a dance album than it was like an indie rock album. And that was like when I really first started getting into dance. Mm-hmm. And that's when I decided like, how do you play out dance records? Because I'd been just playing in bands. And then I was like, oh, you DJ. you know? So that's what forced me how to learn was like, I was already making dance music. I was like, how do I play this live? I have to learn how to DJ. So that's what started my journey. And I moved to San Francisco from LA and I started just really hustling with the DJ game. And I just was doing like open format clubs. And I was just performing regularly, like 3 to 4 times a week at one point in San Francisco. And then like gradually I started getting residencies in Los Angeles. And then, just started, I started my top line singing and songwriting career at the same time, almost a little bit. I mean, let me take that back. I started singing and songwriting well before, but I started making like a living off of DJing before I was making my income off of top lining.
Well, I mean, thank you for sharing. That's such an amazing story.
So so it was long winded, but that's how I started with DJing. Was just like in the clubs in San Francisco and then eventually in LA and just kind of expanding from there.
No, that's amazing because just a little bit of story about me. I actually started the opposite. So I started producing, but then I was so caught up with just like wanting to perform that I did the opposite. I started DJing and did like the whole pay to play. And, you know, like my advice to a lot of artists too that are out there is just like, you know, sit in your house, like get good at your music because that's what's going to take you to the next level. And, you know, unfortunately for myself and many others here in Los Angeles, it's just like there is a platform and a foundation you can start on very easily, but then you get trapped there because it's like you're so focused on just like wanting to perform that, you know, you forget that there's the whole creative aspect of like wanting to go ahead and produce music and then share it. So create the art first and then go share it after.
You know, that's a really good point. I really love that. I mean, definitely they are two different art forms. And I am doing it in that order where like I started DJing first and then I started getting booked as an artist to DJ. And they're two different things, you know, like when I was just DJing open format gigs or playing at clubs, I would really have to focus a lot more on like reading the crowd and just kind of being really versatile with my song selection. And as an artist, I've had to kind of more like stand my ground, so to speak, in terms of like, if you're coming to a Monika Santucci show, I want to live up to that expectation. I want to play that set and not just kind of be loosey-goosey with it, just kind of, you know, really flexible. I feel like it's like two different hats that I wear, you know, it's either DJing or artist set. And artist set, it's like everything's like really kind of planned, especially since I'm singing and DJing at the same time. Like I really have to think about it a lot more in advance. And that hour-long set is like very heavily curated. I'm like making edits in the songs themselves before I even play them. Like I'm working in Ableton before I even play the set out live. But when I'm DJing, it's like the opposite of that. Like I'm making the cue points live and just kind of mixing everything on the fly and just really focusing more on just like reading the crowd and things like that.
Yeah, so speaking about sets, I remember when I performed with you and Super 8 and Tabs and Marcus Schultz at Avalon, and it was
such a great night.
It was such a great night, and all I remember was my flash drive died literally 5 minutes before we got on stage. And for some reason, I went downstairs right as they were calling us to go up. So I pull out my laptop, and then, you know, the problem gets fixed, and we go upstairs, and we have such a successful set that we got invited back to play again.
That was amazing. And that's like a testament. You always got to bring backups.
Yeah.
You got to bring backups on top of backups. And I think Grimes has proved that this year. But no, I mean, definitely like, I'm like, I'm over the top with it probably maybe. I'll bring at least 4 USBs for every show that I play. And I'll check them too in advance on some CDJs and play through at least some of the songs to make sure nothing's corrupt. But you never know. That's the thing. It's live.
You never do.
It's live performance. Like you have to be able to roll with the punches.
Exactly. And, you know, like even I have some friends that, you know, like they'll even bring their own pair of CDJs and mixers just because it's like, it's not the venue's fault. Is, you know, their equipment gets used and abused all the time. So, you know, there's some artists that like take the step up. Like for me, that generally, you know, like being on the recording engineer side and, you know, kind of like having the whole musical education, my professors always told me, you know, like if you can bring your own stuff, like I'll bring my own cables, I'll bring my own USBs, I'll bring my laptop, I'll do what I can. So then that way, like, I don't show up there and then expect people to cater to me. Like I already have everything ready to go. So if something does happen and falls through, the rails, I have this like sort of backup.
Yeah. No, I'm always thinking like definitely like equipment is such a thing. I mean, when I was just DJing, it was just bring the USB and your headphones. That's it.
I know, I remember those good old days.
Like, but now that I'm singing at the same time that I'm DJing, it's like a whole nother ballpark of equipment. I'm bringing like my microphone, my in-ears, my laptop, the UAD. So it's a lot of setup. And I feel like in EDM, like the festival space, it's not necessarily used to that. It's really kind of used to just like the USB thing. So you really have to work around.
Yeah.
Like I'm dealing with like 5 minute setup times that I have to figure out like somewhere in between. If I get lucky, somebody else's set, it's crazy. Like there's really not like a lot of room for extra equipment in some of these at some of these performances. But yeah, that's been like a new thing that I've kind of had to figure out over the last couple of years. Is like how to incorporate the equipment side of things as a vocalist while performing live.
No, I understand that because, like I have friends that have like special setups and, sometimes they'll bring their own like, monitoring teams and their own tracking teams just to make sure they have everything together. For example, Porter Robinson, when he does his live shows, he'll have like a whole effing team just like going there and just making sure that they can sit down and just like kind of go over everything. Because it's like when you have such a big chain when it comes to your performance, it really does matter that, things work and they continue to work and nothing goes wrong in the middle, like from the start to the end.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and move on to the next one. By the way, that was an amazing story.
Love it.
So what are some of your biggest music influences and how did that shape your style of music?
I have a lot. It's I feel like some really big songwriting influences have been Third Eye Blind, and then just like a bunch of indie rock bands like Counterfeit and Gatsby's American Dream. And I love like pop bands like Terror Jr., Kiara. And then, yeah, definitely I'm influenced by dance music too. I think some of my biggest influences initially were Ellie Goulding and Dylan Francis. They're the ones and Flosstradamus. They're the ones that really got me into it in the beginning.
That's funny that you mentioned that because those were like some of my favorite. I remember around, I think it was like 2013, 2014, around that like time, like before everybody really started coming into the the music scene and they got really, overpopulated. Around that time was when I was, like listening to Justice and I was listening to like the Bloody Beetroots, but, I was still like doing my thing and I was listening to like Pink Floyd or the Misfits or like Exodus. And it was very different from what I was like listening to at the time. But some of the first artists that I discovered was like Dylan Francis or, like Justice or, just I remember going back and listening to some of my first stuff, which was like old school Tiesto. And he was like the one that kind of started off for a lot of people or Armin or, like Green Velvet or Carl Cox. So it's like it's great to kind of have those influences because like it's one of the things where it really does shape the style of music that you produce, but at the same time, it's like what I've been learning is from my mentors, like when you have something, it's just like you're able to kind of break the rules as long as you get to know them. And, it's always great to kind of know some of the influences that, like really affect you in your music production or especially your songwriting because, think of like pop, everybody's used to those like common chords and, the 1-5-4 or the 1-6-5-4 or stuff like that. And it really influences in the way that you make because in pop music, if you think about the way that it's produced, it's like, the vocals a little bit more up front and then the drums are kind of like a little bit more in the back. So
yeah, I mean, we don't live in a vacuum. Like music is, I feel like it's like a collective art project where we're all influenced by something. And I feel like that we're just an amalgamation of our influences. And then, that's what's really cool is being able to create something new out of that set of influences.
Exactly. And, it's one of the things where I see a lot of artists, like they usually like, how do you say, like they'll go ahead and they'll write music, but then sometimes they'll put themselves in a little bubble. So is there anything that you do specifically to, like find a little bit more creativity just like out of the same music genre that you're writing in?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I feel like one thing that I do to kind of help break outside of the genre that I'm listening to or that I'm working in. I mean, I honestly, yeah, I do listen to a lot of dance music, but I listen to a lot of other genres too. Like I'll listen to hip hop a lot or country a lot. And I just like good songs. Like I like
Yeah.
really catchy melodies. And I find that there's like a lot of genres that hit that for me. So I'm not really, I feel like that's one thing that really helps me bring something kind of new or keep it kind of fresh in dance music is that I'm listening to like everything outside of it too. And I just really love like strong songwriters. And I feel like bringing that into dance music has been like really cool to be able to do.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, think of the perfect example. Think of like what they did to Post Malone. Like, it's like a guy that was amazing at singing country, and they're like, all right, well, let's go ahead and throw you into hip hop. But like, commonly, like it's one of the things where like hip hop really influences a lot of people and especially like a lot of genres. And it's great to kind of see like the overall background of like how things come together when you involve other genres. Like look at G Jones. G Jones is a perfect example of like EDM and, like hip hop slash space trap. Like UZ or no, U2, UZ. I want to go with UZ. So yeah, perfect example. Or look at Joyride. Like exact same thing. It's like grabbing and, like kind of fusing other music and having really great influences. And for me, like I come from a like very soul funky background. And then I grew up with like heavy metal, hardcore, stuff like that. So for me to kind of, when I make my music, it's kind of like all over the place, but it's always good to kind of, grab some examples and kind of just like solidify them.
Nice.
Yeah. So it's great that, you give us a little bit of that because I know a lot of times, especially with other producers, including myself, like I'll get stuck. And then I don't know what to do, so I'll kind of like push the session back, and I'll like go hear other types of music, and then after it'll just kind of just come and do its thing. All right, so let's go ahead and start with the next one. All right, so this one it's more kind of focused on the creative process of like doing things. So can you walk us through the process of preparing for a set of a gig?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I'm mostly just playing supporting gigs right now, so. I mean, the first thing I'll do is kind of look at the headliner and just, it's always my music and my set, but I try to kind of curate and craft for like the night, like to some degree. So I'll definitely like modify songs, depending on if it's like, it's going to be a heavier night or if it's going to be more on like the chill side. And yeah, I'll basically go into Ableton and make edits, into either my songs or other records that I'm playing that night. Mm-hmm. I'd say my set is about maybe like 80% my music and then maybe like 20% others. Oh, you're too kind. I appreciate that. I mean, yeah, it took me a while to get to that point. Like I definitely, like I said, like I was full-time DJing before this. So I was just like, I wasn't even confident enough at playing any of my songs for a while. I was like, how do I get my songs to sound playable while when I DJ? But yeah, so it definitely took a while to get to that point where I felt confident in doing that. But yeah, now I would say the set is about 80% my original material, 20% other people's songs, and also I'll play like remixes of my own tracks as well in there. But I'll usually go in and make edits to try to get everything to kind of work. Like if I'm making any like massive tempo changes in the middle of the set, or if I want to have like a cool transition. Or kind of like cut something in half. Yeah, I'll do those edits in Ableton in advance, and then I'll bring them into Rekordbox. I'll bounce them out, bring them into Rekordbox, and then from there, bring it onto the USB, and then just DJ it. And I'll usually one of the biggest things I have to do in Ableton in advance is bring all of my songs in as like instrumentals, and then bring in backing vocals to those songs, and kind of like lower the vocal such that I can have just like a live vocal as my lead and then have some backing harmonies in the track. So I'll have to do those kind of things. And then, yeah, I'll just like DJ, and then I'll have my equipment there so I can sing as well on top of the DJing and kind of like compete with the mastered records, and like have a vocal that's like loud enough and compressed and EQ'd and everything.
That's fantastic. Yeah, because it's just like I know there's a lot of people that do it, but it's like there's just something very specific about the way that you do it. And like I've been to your live shows, and I've seen how, like, beginning to end of how it goes, and it's such a wonderful experience to see you do your thing, because it's like it's very different from most people, because it's like most people when they go up there, like their whole entire goal is just to sing great, but with you it's like that performance is already there, but it's just like it's always a one up, and like how can I get better at it, how can I do this, how can I do that, and it's like you're mastering your own performance and creating that like art style and showing it to people when you're on stage. So if you guys haven't seen Monika Santucci on like live yet, you guys should. When is your next show, by the way?
I actually don't have anything locked in right now, but soon, very, very soon.
Yeah.
We're in the works for a couple things.
I definitely know that too, because we're in the works with something. So definitely, when we go ahead and negotiate on that, we'll let the fans know when the next upcoming confirmation is.
Up, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So let's move into the more juicier parts of the interview, and let's go ahead and talk about the Aton EP.
Yeah, I'm so excited. It came out just a week ago. The Aton EP, it's 6 songs, lots of kind of like melodic dubstep, but a little bit of D&B mixed in there. And it's a really like pop dance record. I really try to incorporate like my melodic sensibilities, my songwriting, and then also have those like really like heavy hitting kind of, or I guess like melodic drops incorporated with it as well. Right. So yeah, it's the Aton EP. It's really, to me, I'm trying to kind of express the spiritual battle that I feel like we are going through as a collective. The album itself goes through a hero's journey just on a micro level. Yeah. But I feel like, we all go through that on an individual level, but it's also something that we're going through as humanity. So Aton refers to what I believe we can do on like the light side of things to try to combat the darkness, so to speak. So Aton is really just kind of like making up for, we can't go back and correct mistakes that we've made in the past, but what we can do is acknowledge them and try to do the best we can moving forward, but also try to make up for it moving forward. Yeah. Try to do things to try to make the world a better place in areas that we maybe had a blind spot in before. So that's kind of what it is. It's like, it's about the spiritual battle. It's the hero's journey on a micro level, but really kind of on a macro level, trying to express what we're going through collectively. So yeah, I worked with some amazing producers on this, some amazing co-writers, and it was 2 years in the making. It's been a really long time coming, and I'm so proud of it. Each song is like my baby. And yeah, I hope you guys like it.
Yeah. So where can we find the Aton EP?
You can find it wherever you stream music: Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, SoundCloud, if anybody still uses that. But yeah, anywhere you stream music, just type it in. Monika Santucci, Aton.
Yeah, if you guys don't know already, Monika has a lovely website. So head over to monikasantucci.com and you will literally find everything above and beyond besides her social in there. Thank you. So, that concludes today's episode. And thank you to my special guest and my lovely friend, and have a great night.